In this film, we're going to be looking at how we can create new harmonies for a vocal part using Melodyne, using its pitch shifting capabilities. This is a really nice technique to use if your vocalist has gone home and suddenly you've got a great idea for a new harmony over a lead line that might have been sung, or if you want to create something a bit more otherworldly and a bit less real than just a sung harmony part. We're going to be working with the track that we were using in last month's Toolkit as well, so let's just remind ourselves how that goes.
Loving ain't simple with you anymore. We have become opposites. No, loving ain't simple with you anytime. Battle lines drawn.
Okay, so you can see that I've chopped the vocal parts up, and actually, to be honest, what I want to do is simply add a melodined version of the lead line to the first phrase and the last one. So what I'm going to do is to copy those down to this new track on which I've already set up Melodyne. Now, this isn't doing anything yet, this is just waiting for us to work. But before we actually do that, what I'm also going to do is to copy the channel strip setting from the lead vocal to this Melodyne part, so that we've got a sort of similar tonal sound, dynamic shape to the vocal as we're working. So I'm then going to open up Melodyne, and the first thing we need to do is to scan this audio in. So we're going to go back to the top of the track, press the transfer button, and just run the track through so that Melodyne can assess and analyse the pitch of each note as it comes in.
Loving ain't simple with you anymore. We have become opposites. No, loving ain't simple with you anytime. Battle lines drawn.
So once that scanning process is complete, we can obviously go and find those two phrases, just moving these bars to move around and to go and find each one, and we can work on them individually. So obviously there's a very musical way of doing this, which is to think very carefully about what your harmony is doing, work out what the melody line's doing, and find sort of complementary notes, or you could just use your ears. And that's what we're going to do this time round. So I'm just putting a cycle around this first phrase. And what we're going to do is to move some of these notes around until we find something that hopefully suits the melody nicely. So let's just start by moving a few notes up and around and keep cycling around until we find something we like.
Loving ain't simple with you anymore. 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 Loving ain't simple with you.
Okay, so from a pitch point of view, this shape's quite nice, but a couple of things are a little bit wonky about it, partly because the original vocal isn't tuned, so we're trying to sort of add notes that are ever so slightly out from a tuning point of view to other ones that are. So you can see in particular this A isn't quite right, but it sounds better, a bit sharp than it does a bit flat. But what I'm also going to do, as well as simply just moving the notes around, is to select the modulation tool for these notes, which allows me to control the amount of vibrato on them. So I'm making these much flatter from a vibrato point of view than the original, and this note's still fairly wobbly. So that's one thing I can do, just to ever so slightly lessen the sort of width of the pitch base of each note. And also for notes like this, which are kind of nearly right but not quite right, what I'm also going to do is to use the amplitude tool to bring down their volume. Let's try that now.
Loving ain't simple with you anymore. Loving ain't simple with you anymore. Loving ain't simple with you anymore.
Okay, I like that. So let's move on to the end phrase and just move our locators around that, and we'll do something similar over here with this last collection of notes. Let's just move the window along so we can see these more clearly.
battle lines drawn.
You can hear, if I'm not in playback mode, that when I click on each note we can hear it very clearly. And with a note like this, where there's sort of two notes within this note, it's being detected as one note. But what I can do is just split this simply by double-clicking there, and then these two notes will snap to their nearest pitches. Before we even start thinking about pitch again, I'm just going to use the modulation tool to remove some of that wobble. Okay, let's start thinking about pitch shifting this now.
Battle lines drawn. 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 Battle lines drawn.
So that's working quite nicely. Again, I kind of just want to fall off these notes at the end and have them just become a sort of whisper.
Battle lines drawn. Battle lines drawn.
So now we've created this little harmony, what we can do is to think about the mix and just tuck these in a little bit. I'm just going to drop the volume down, and then we can look at what other effects we've got here, maybe add some more reverb just to wash this out a little bit and make it feel like a backing vocal.
Love ain't simple with you anymore. We have become opposites. No, love ain't simple with you anytime. Battle lines drawn.
So certainly reducing the pitch modulation makes these vocals seem a bit more robotic, and actually for a track like this that's quite nice. It adds this very otherworldly sort of feel to it. But if you keep modulation where it is, then obviously you'll have the same amount of vibrato on these created harmonies that you had on the original, which can obviously feel a little bit more natural.